All right, we are on to the next one, which is Haomai's fixed memory layout for messaging and app passing. So if Haomai he's around. So Haomai, you want to give us a breakdown of this blueprint and what you were thinking?
Okay. Most of things we have said for the last update transaction encoding BP, and I think most of other things we need to discuss is messaging side. For example, we do some encoding decoding jobs and discard them in object store. So we can copy it to message side. For example, we can pack the MOSD-OP into a fixed size memory layout, and we can directly use it without decode it, as we performed in decoder messages fashion. We have several maybe 50 US using decode it. So do we consider to reconstruct MSD-OP or other client OP related codes? Do you have any comment?
Let's see, am I looking at the right one?
Yeah, I'm over.
Yeah. Sam, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm decoding. So most of this seems to be about the object store thing, right?
Yeah.
So object store transactions have some advantages which messages do not benefit from. Mostly that all of the files, well, actually they're kind of just not similar. I guess is my thing. So what I guess concretely were you thinking of with the message?
So I maybe we can move decoder logically to PG lawyer. Because maybe sometimes we didn't need to decode some members, and we can directly use it from point, which is pointed to buffer in buffer list. For example, MOSD-OP is payload. We can directly use it and without decode. Maybe I think.
Actually,
yeah.
Go ahead.
For client side, if we have fixed size memory layout, we can directly MEMSPY to copy memory of structure, just like what we did for object store OPs. Most of that.
It's just that messages are a very diverse group. It's challenging bit.
Yeah, I think it seems like the way to approach this is not to try to capture all messages, but to focus on just the messages that are in the fast path, like just MOSD-OP and reply.
Well, hang on, are you
sub-op? Is that
because if we want to improve? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, this seems like the simplest approach would be just to focus on those like 4 messages or whichever ones you decide are the important ones, and make it so that the encoding for those ones is similar to the transaction. You just basically you just copy the data, you copy the buffer list, but you don't even copy it. You just have the reference to the buffer list. So you would have it's almost what we did originally, where in the old versions of Ceph, where the header for the MOSD-OP was a packed struct, and we literally just copied it out of the first part of the buffer. But instead, we just point into it. We abandoned that because we kept adding fields, and it was harder to maintain. But we could go back to that now that we've sort of settled a little bit more on like what what the encoding is, so that the message wouldn't actually be decoded at all. It would just you just read that buffer list off, and it would be there, and then you'd have the accessors would just reach in directly into the buffer and point to the right offset that it knows it's going to find there.
So we were kind of talking about this before, and so my concerns are a couple. One is that the thing where you just point into the buffer makes absolutely perfect sense for primitive integer types, because you can do the byte swap nonsense right there on access. That's fine. That would work great. But for complex objects like GH object T's, which are the things we actually care about speeding up the decode of, we never want to decode one of those more than once. And if we run that accessor twice, that means we ran the decode twice. Right? So this only helps us if we don't access some of the fields, like ever.
So let me just paste the contents of the structure into the pad. So we have a bunch of integer types, and then we have like 3 variable length things. So there's the object info. The locator is usually fixed sized, but occasionally has key set, which is a string, and then the vector of ops.
Yes, STL structure is very unfriendly to fixed memory.
The vector?
So
it's just an array.
Yes, I mean.
It's dynamically allocated array, but it's an array.
But it looks like this.
It looks like length followed by contiguous unaligned bits, right?
So the OSD op that's in that vector is this. It's a fixed size structure with
I see. Yes. So, but it's not the STL part that's bad. It's the fact that these aren't fixed size.
So, but it's actually mostly fixed size. So the SOID thing is optional and rarely used, and these buffers are already stored elsewhere in the structure. So the current decode does this annoying thing where it's basically chunking out all these datas and mapping them into the OSD ops so that the buffer lists point to the right sections of the data. And so we already do half of this. It's really just this SOID and the string and the object locator and the OID. These are the only things that are sort of variable length, and the vector itself, I guess. But that's, I think, not so bad to deal with, right? So it seems like you could do some very minimal
You need to replace, so you're arguing that you want to replace the variable length pieces with a deferred variable, so instead of an S-object T, you have a deferred S-object T, which instead is a handle, which points into a buffer list that is uninterpreted and at the end of the message, right?
Well, you could change this OSD app, for example, to instead of embedding this the structure, to have it a shared pointer or whatever, or not even that, but just a pointer right here.
Wait, I thought the Ceph OSD app was
N, and this could be, then you would only have to decode this string, this SOID string. You'd copy that string, which is rarely used, and so that would never happen. You'd have a pointer into the original buffer here, and these end datas are just adding buffer pointers into the existing buffer also. So, and we're already doing that, right? So then this vector becomes pretty much free. You're just allocating a vector of small structures and populating some pointers in them. And then the only other pieces are this object OID that you have to construct and decode, which you can do once in cache, and the locator, which you could do once in cache, because very rarely is that key string actually used.
See, my concern
and everything else is a pointer into the thing.
There usually aren't that many ops, and we are decoding these once and caching them. Right? That's what the decode method does. So if the OSD ops were long and we weren't going to look at most of them, then that would make some sense. I guess the locality isn't great, but we're going to read the whole thing anyway. And we just pulled it off the wire, so it can't be that big.
Yeah.
I think we got most of the way there by just making it so that we don't have to decode the object store transaction. Or, sorry, there is no object. No, because we already don't decode the data.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just a
a
header
buffer
tab.
list. We don't copy it or anything.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
I mean, it may be worth doing.
So I think that the things that we're copying are the Ceph OSD op and all these integers, which we're going to look at anyway, so we might as well copy them once. And we're copying the string for the OID. Right, those are which isn't so bad. The snaps, I guess, these get copied. Well, is it different? Is it different for MOSD subop? Let's look at that one.
Well, that we get the win by just having an efficient object store transaction.
Yeah, it has a bunch of other stuff in there though too. It's got a lot of stuff.
It's got a lot of eversion T's, if I recall correctly.
I mean, I don't know if you look. It's got a ton of small types. It's got this objects. That's a copy. This is expensive.
Yeah.
The snap set and snap contexts. It's got both of these.
Actually need the request ID? I don't think I've ever seen that used.
As we used to allow you to do the parallel thing, where you would do the op twice.
Yeah, we don't
instead of
do
shipping
that,
the
though. Doesn't
transaction.
work.
So we could probably cull this and get rid of all that crap.
Well, I mean, we could actually just produce an MOSD subop too that lacks most of this.
Exactly.
But I mean, the only variable length thing here is when do we send a snap set? Oh, I remember. There are a whole bunch of ops that are overloaded on MOSD subop. I forgot about that. Like half of the little utility things the PG does are subops. So we could create an MOSD client subop that only has the fields relevant for that. That would buy us almost all of it. We don't need the data subs or the clone subsets for that. Those are we don't even
all this
do
object recovery stuff. All this recovery stuff. We
don't even use those messages, those fields anymore. We have new messages for that. That's only necessary for interoperating with pre-Cuttlefish, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay.
There is room for improvement.
So create a new message just for client subops. I think that's it.
Yes. Yes. I see MOSD subop and it has many members and I think it's very difficult to reflect and as you said, we could add a new message subop for it. Is it me?
Yeah. So I mean, even a lot of these fields aren't even used, but the easiest thing is
are used.
Yeah, it's like MOSD client.
So I think maybe because we have refactor on Object Store, so maybe we can, according to the refactor on Object Store, we can adjust M subop. Maybe it's necessary. Do you agree?
I think we're suggesting that we just create a brand new message that doesn't have any of this stuff in it. It'll have like 4 fields. It'll have like an object and several eversion T's, which are efficient.
And the transaction buffer, which is will very soon be basically free. Yeah, and that's almost there's like a log BL. Did you stat? Yeah, it's like really
no.
Really small. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Are these, Sam, can we kill some of these fields or do we need them for compatibility with?
The answer is always yes, but it's a nightmare. It's a nightmarish amount of pain to do it because you have to pass the replicas or the communicant, the other person's version in so it can decide which fields it's allowed to ignore, which is why making a new message is easier.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I've been shunting off other functions into their own messages. It's also easier to read.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so much crap in here. Okay.
Like the complete history of all Ceph replication.
I know. Like this OSD peer stat is information about, I think, latency that was added when I was experimenting with shedding reads to replicas to speed them up. That like never even worked. It's still there. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we actually do need the PG stats, I think. So need to include
Yeah,
that.
the PG stat T. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
a related.
That's actually pretty big. Huh?
Yeah, a related question though. The while we're talking about PG stats, this is totally unrelated, but the PG stats, we still have that category thing.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I think we should rip it out because I don't think we have any users.
It's yeah. I agree with you on that. Oh, that's right. PG Stats has that STL map because of the categories. I forgot.
Exactly. I mean, it's always empty, so
yeah,
it's not that bad, but it's still just irritating because it could be big.
I mean, I guess you could send a message to the list and see if anyone's using it. There aren't that many raw Libredos users anyway, though.
Yeah, but we should. Yeah, I'll make sure that's on my list. That's stuff to do. Haomai, does that make sense? Does that sound like it's going to capture? No.
In other words, I mean, we're saying that it makes little sense to optimize the structure because we don't actually want any of this information. We only need like 5 of the fields in this message to begin with.
So, I mean, the way to approach that is to look at the issue rep op, basically that's used when you're creating a new client op, and make a version of that is only works for replicated. They're all the same, actually. It's always rep ops. So issue rep op
it's in the back end, actually.
But that's the only thing that all of the issue rep op callers are going to work the same. Like none of them use all this other stuff. The recovery info and the recovery progress. So it's really
used to be
issue
trickier.
rep op.
It used to be trickier, but you unified everything into that one simple rep op and friends thing. So it's actually pretty. Oh no, hang on. It all lives in replicated backend. It's in one method. It's an issue. It's in submit op or something. There's exactly one caller. This constructor is called once. Now that I think about it. Because everything above that isn't allowed to know, because erasure coded pools don't use MOSD subops. They use something else. I forget what I called it. EC sub, EC right or something.
EC.
I created a different set of messages for erasure coded.
Yeah, I see a bunch of new calls though. They're all over replicated PG and in pg.cc.
Oh no, that construct other kinds of subops, but not this one specific kind, not client subops.
Okay, but
there
I don't see that.
There are tons of other subop users, but they're not client ops.
But I don't see the backend one.
Looking for it. Hang on. It's in replicated pg.cc, I'm pretty sure. Oh, this is.
Yeah, it is. Oh, right, because he didn't move it. Yeah, it's in replicated backend issue op.
All you have to do is check the version stamp on your replicas, and if they're new enough, you just send the new message. I think we can do the same thing with subop replies, by the way.
I think, yeah, definitely.
Similarly Byzantine. Not so bad. Except, what is the vector of OSD ops for in MOSD subop reply?
Because it used to have the option where it would do OSD ops on the replica too. on the off chance that it was cheaper to send the op than to ship the resulting transaction.
But can't you only get back 0 or an error code on a write? I guess you get back the per op.
No, but
yeah,
it could be, say it was a class operation that adds 1 to every byte in the object. The actual OSD op is tiny, but the resulting transaction's huge.
No. I mean, but the thing you get
it,
back from the replica can't contain any information that you don't already have.
No. Yeah. Oh, why is it in the reply? Oh, I think it might be because it was easier to read the debugging output. That might be why.
That actually makes sense.
It served us well up until now.
Well, I mean, it's like 8 bytes, and it says 0, right? An empty vector, or is it 4 bytes? The 32 bits.
Well, no, it's usually populated, I think.
In the current implementation, we don't populate that. We only populate that for parallel exec. We don't do that for transaction shipping.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's empty. Yeah, same deal. Not all of this needs to be there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments on this?
Oh no, I really can't catch up with your ideas. So
yeah, okay.
Maybe you can you can make a conclusion, or
yeah. So I think the conclusion at the bottom of if you're looking at the Etherpad at the bottom, I took a few notes. I think the takeaway is basically that we want to create a new message type. So say MOSD client subop that's only used for replicating the client operations. And we avoid that crufty other one entirely. And there's one caller that matters. It's the replicated backend issue op in replicated pg.cc.
Yes, you mean that many members in MOSD-OP is used by EC code, and so we need to.
The system has detected that a minimum number of lines are connected to this conference.
Someone has to hit
Do
1.
you want to continue your meeting? Press 1 to confirm. If there is no response, the conference will end.
If somebody on the phone hits 1.
Haomai, just to give you a little background, the basic the problem is that MOSD subops are used or have been used for the following things. They have been used for client ops, recovery ops. They are used for removing objects. In the case, during backfill, they're used for removing objects during backfill. Is it used for reserve or no? I forget.
Reserve is different.
Yeah,
that's a different message.
Yes.
Okay, so most of these fields just aren't important.
Yeah.
So it's better to create a new message without them.
Yeah.
Also, the MOSD client subop reply. Yeah. So the 2 new messages and optimize just that path to have only the fields that we need and just the nice transaction buffer. And
yeah. So I think maybe you and who can add some comments to MOSD-OP and guide me to think about which is only used BEC or which is or others maybe.
Just so you know, none of this is used for erasure coded pools at all.
Yeah.
We already have a different message for that. So you can ignore erasure coded pools. In fact, the only fields you need to worry about are the ones that are set in replicated backend issue op. Yeah, that sounds right.
So I think just look at that one function and fill in only those fields that are used. And then on the other side, look at what the handle OSD subop, the path that actually does the replicated client ops, and the ones that it looks at. Like those are the 2, the sender and the receiver. Because I think most of it's not used.
Well, here, it's pasted in. I'll indicate which ones off the top of my head I think we need. I'll put equal signs next to the ones we need.
Yeah. Get the request to shard. Yes. PGID.
We really do need both of those. Sorry.